Well, good morning.
Good morning.
There we go. I'm live now. Well, good morning and welcome to our service today, which is focusing on the Epiphany. And I'm going to share some interesting facts from around the world a little bit later on. But for now, I have a few things that we need to share this morning. And before we go into the birthday song, the first thing is this morning, because of COVID, we're not having singing until the end of the service. So the singing will be the last song this morning only, but you can hum. Hum with your mouth shut will be fantastic. So we want to wish everybody whose birthday is in January a very happy birthday. Celebrating a birthday in January. So, a couple of things this week. Our Zoom meetings are on Monday and Friday for anybody that would like to join us. It's just a time of drop-in, chat, share, whatever. And we have quite interesting conversations sometimes. Our board meeting is next Sunday at noon on Zoom, which leads me into COVID. When we, as a pandemic team, we're always looking at the figures, and we kind of have an arbitrary figure in our head of what we think is an acceptable level, and we've been kind of saying about 15% positivity. Now, in Alachua County, we have been at 1.7%, it went up to 3.1, last week it was 7 point something, and this week it's 22.1. And for that reason, the team are wearing masks today, and we're not having singing. And for that reason as well, we have to move to virtual online church next week. We will do that for as short a period as possible, but I hope that you will engage with us online, because we're going to try a few different things. It's a perfect opportunity to do something a little new. So not every week will be new, but it will be a shorter service that we hope that everybody will fully engage with. So we invite you this morning to hum if you are in the building, but if you're at home, you sing your little hearts out, and we will hear you, I'm sure. But we ask you to please be careful. This variant is just spreading so fast. And Jackie asked me to share with you her story. Jackie has COVID, as does Alex and Ginny. Jackie, her symptoms were a mild cold. And she got tested and she was negative. She got tested again and it was negative. And then she had a PCR test and it was positive. And so if she had taken the results of the first two tests, she would have gone out and partied on New Year. But luckily, the other tests came through before that happened. And so it's really important to note that if you have any symptoms of anything, please stay away from everybody and get yourself tested. It's so important. We want to keep you safe, and us, of course, but we want to keep everybody safe. We've done it so far. And I know that as we start 2022, it's very difficult because, you know, we said, oh, let's leave 2021 behind, and here we are, Omicron's hit us in Alachua County. But you know what? We can take this and see it as an opportunity, or we can sit in the mire of it. And I encourage you not to lose your joy, because we can have joy in worship even when we're not singing. We can have joy in our life even when we're not meeting together in person. Now this is a short glitch. I am sure of it, that this is a short glitch, and for a short period of time we'll be worshipping online together, but after that we'll be back together again in person. So I pray that you will bear with us while we are just careful, and while we as a team worship, but that you worship with us during this time. Now the first song that we're going to sing today before you is My God Reigns. And in this song it talks about dancing. And dancing our praise. So even though those in the building can't sing, they can hum and clap and dance. So whatever is comfortable for you in a way that you can express your praise to God, I invite you to do it. And I might even video it. Let's worship God this morning. But we know that when we stop and we praise you and then we worship you, we can feel a sense of joy in our souls. And so we lift all of our worship to you, whether it's clapping or humming or singing or sitting and listening to you this day, and rejoice. Amen. Please be seated.
The first reading comes from the book of Isaiah. Arise, shine, for your light has come, and the glory of the Lord has risen upon you. For darkness shall cover the earth, and thick darkness the peoples, but the Lord will arise upon you, and his glory will appear over you. Nations shall come to your light, and kings to the brightness of your dawn. Lift up your eyes and look around. They all gather together. They come to you. Your sons shall come from far away, and your daughters shall be carried on their nurses' arms. Then you shall see and be radiant. Your heart shall thrill and rejoice, because the abundance of the sea shall be brought to you. The wealth of the nations shall come to you. A multitude of camels shall cover you. The young camels of Midian and Ephah, all those from Sheba shall come. They shall bring gold and frankincense, and shall proclaim the praise of the Lord. comes from the book of Matthew. In the time of the King Herod, after Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea, wise men came from the east, came to Jerusalem, asking, "Where is the child who has been born King of the Jews? For we observed his star at its rising and have come to pay him homage." When King Herod heard this, he was frightened, and all Jerusalem with him. And all calling together all the chief priests and scribes of the people, he inquired of them where the Messiah was to be born. They told him, "In Bethlehem of Judea, for so it has been written by the prophet, 'And you, Bethlehem, in the land of Judah, are by no means least among the rulers of Judah. For from you shall come a ruler who is to shepherd my people Israel.' Then Herod secretly called for the wise men and learned from them the exact time when the star had appeared. Then he sent them to Bethlehem, saying, 'Go and search diligently for the child, and when you have found him, bring me word, so that I may also go and pay him homage.' When they had heard the king, they set out, and there ahead of them went the star that they had been seeing at its rising, until it stopped over the place where the child was. When they saw that the star had stopped, they were overwhelmed with joy. On entering the house, they saw the child with Mary, his mother, and they knelt down and paid him homage. Then opening their treasure chests, they offered him gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. And having been warned in a dream not to return to Herod, they left for their own country by another road." That is the reading. As we come to our sharing of offerings and gifts, we really want to give special thanks here to Cecil and Steve and all the people who have made yesterday possible, bringing things together, setting them up, putting them away. Thank you so much. We give special thanks to Jackie for matching the funds that were raised this past season. It's an extraordinary gift, and we give her so much thanks. And to everyone who contributed, thank you. And it's not just stopping there. This past year has gone, and we have a brand new one upon us. So let's all embark in this new journey together as we continue to share God's love for all of us. And it's through your gifts, your time, your talents, and your treasure that you make this possible. You are God's eyes and ears and arms and legs and body on this earth right now. So without you, we can't do this. And we thank you for all that you do and continue to do. Let us come along as we prepare for our offering. As long as I have breath.
As long as I have breath, I will praise you, God. As long as I can sleep, I will
dangerous when you put me on the clicker. So I'm grateful that you are humming this morning and don't need the words immediately so that I have time to flap around and find my place. So it's Epiphany, and the Magi, wise men, have finally arrived at the nativity scene, albeit a little early, but we have this tradition of moving the figures around the church, and they decided they would arrive early for this Sunday. So I wanted to sort of see what is so special about Epiphany. And I thought, it'd be good to see what people do around the world. Because, sometimes we get stuck in our own thing, and for a lot of us, 6th of January is Epiphany, and that means that's when we take our Christmas decorations down, or if you start on this day, then you might do it a day later. Other people do the end of the month. Orthodox people have the 19th of January for Epiphany, because their Christmas is the 7th of January, so they haven't even had their Christmas yet. So we celebrate 12 days after Christmas. And there are different traditions around the world, within churches, within denominations, but also within countries. And we celebrate whether it's the wise men, the three kings, the magi, they're all called different things. But also Epiphany, in some churches, they celebrate Jesus' baptism when he was around 30. So this is a celebration that really most things can fit into. And in Spain, Epiphany is a really important festival, where it's also known as the Festival of the Three Magic Kings. Fiesta de los Tres Reyes Mages. Sí. And it's when Spanish and other Catholic children receive their presents, because they're delivered by the three kings.
Yep.
And in Spain on Epiphany morning, you might go to a local baker and buy a special cake or pastry called a roscon, meaning a ring-shaped roll. And they're normally filled with cream or chocolate, which sounds good to me, and I think we should start that in our church, and are decorated with a paper crown. This is a bit I'm not sure I like. There's normally a figure of a king, and if you find it, I'm hoping not by biting the head off, then you get to wear the crown. And there's a dried bean, and if you find that, you're meant to pay for the cake. Right, but how do you know you found that bean? Like, is it you've broken your tooth, or it gets stuck? I'm not sure. So, and in Catalonia, it's known as tortell or gato de roi, and it's stuffed with marzipan. If you know me, I love marzipan. So in France, you might eat a galette de roi, a type of flat almond cake, and that has a toy crown cooked inside it, and it's decorated on top with a gold paper crown. And in Portugal, people take part in Epiphany carol singing, known as the, I don't know if they say the J, Janeeiras.
Yes.
Yeah. On the island of Madeira, they're known as the Canta aos Reis, singing the kings. Italy, some children get their presents. They believe that an old lady called Befana brings them, and children put their stockings up by the fireplace for her to fill. Now, in Belgium, children dress up as the three wise men and go from door to door singing. And people give them money or sweets. So it's kind of a cross between carol singing and trick-and-treating. And children in Poland also go out singing on Epiphany. And then in similar traditions in Mexico, where Epiphany is known as El Dia de los Reyes, the Day of the Three Kings. Gee, I'm glad I'm learning Spanish. And it's a tradition there also to eat a special cake called Rosca de Reyes, Three Kings cake. And I really don't like this bit. A figure of baby Jesus is hidden inside the cake. And whoever has the baby Jesus in their piece is the godparent of Jesus for that year. But what I don't like about it is I'd be frightened I'd bite the head off of Jesus. And that doesn't feel so good. So you see there are all these different traditions all over the world, and for every season that we have, there is a different tradition wherever you go. And I know sometimes I share on our Zoom meetings some of the traditions that I come from, and some of us have shared those as well. But I know that the last couple of years, many of our traditions have changed due to COVID. And it just got me thinking that, sometimes it's time for a reset. What's important and what isn't? What is important in all of those traditions for me is the coming together. The coming together and the celebrating. And sometimes the actual things that we do are not so important. And I think that day of Epiphany for Mary and Joseph was different to what they were used to. I mean, let's face it. I've been watching this nativity series on Netflix, and it's been quite interesting to watch it. It comes, all different things on it that challenge my thinking, because I've been, we all have a way of thinking of how things have been. And I don't know, we get this image of the three kings with these royal robes on and, majestic hats and these big gifts. But actually this series has taught me a little that actually if they were astronomers and they were kind of what would be classed as a little hippie, they wouldn't have had anything like that on. They would have been in flowy, older clothes probably that, didn't have so much care taken of them, because their concerns were with the stars. But you think about Mary and Joseph, I mean, how often did they have 3 astrologers come visit them? This was a bit of an unusual day for them. And we know that Jesus was a little bit older, so whenever we celebrate anything, we just pick a day, and that's the day we do. It doesn't mean that's the actual day it happened. It's symbolic. Because Jesus was a little older when the kings got there, or the wise men, magi. And I want to talk a little bit about these wise men. They weren't Jews. They weren't rabbis. And they sure weren't Christians. And yet they have this key piece in our Christian story. Don't you find that amazing? That these 3 men, there may have been more, and I've preached previously on Artaban, who's the 4th, but anyway, that's another story. That these 3 men come to Mary and Joseph and Jesus. I just find it fascinating. Because for some people, these men were wacky doodles. They really were. Because they weren't based in what they considered the Jewish law, they weren't based in anything structural, they were based on the stars. And even now we don't accept people who think outside the box. And yet these men were key to this story that we talk about every single year. And so I wondered what it was that's important about these 3. And whenever I preach my truth. That doesn't mean it's your truth. And you can disagree with me at any point. That's absolutely fine. Preferably not right in the middle of the sermon, maybe afterwards. But for me, these 3, the reason this story stays in here is because anyone could bring a gift to Jesus. They didn't have to be holy, the Jewish rabbi. They didn't have to be the king. They didn't have to be a prince. It could be anybody. And for these magi, they had to turn their back on the king in order to get out of this situation that they were in, because if they had gone back and told Herod, then Herod would have found Jesus. So they had to stay strong to what they believed, and they brought themselves to this story. Themselves and their gifts. What is it that we bring to this story? Do we feel that we have to be a specific type of person? Do we feel we have to have specific gifts? I so often hear people say, oh, but I don't know what gift I have. Or I'm getting old, I haven't got anything left in the tank. Or I'm too young to even know what I want to do. But I think these magi, these astronomers, astrologers, whichever it is, show us that you can just bring yourself and the gift of yourself. And they bought another gift as well. I have heard say on several years that if it had been women, then maybe they would have bought different gifts. Maybe more practical. But it doesn't matter. The point is, it's about bringing yourself and the gift that you have. And that gift is important, whether it's worth a fortune or whether it's like the widow's mite. Our gifts are a gift to the world. The gifts that they brought that day to Jesus were a gift that we are still talking about now. So what gifts will we bring in 2022? What gifts will others give us that we have to receive with grace? Because that's just as hard as giving gifts is receiving gifts. And so my prayer for 2022 is that as we give gifts, we will be ready to receive the gifts that God has for us. May it be so.
Amen.
come to our time of prayer, I'm just so aware that there are multiple needs in our community. Needs for comfort and needs for a spark of joy. Need for food and for financial help. For healing. And yet, sometimes it all feels too big. But as John said earlier, we are the hands and feet, the mouth, the ears of God on this earth. And so as we pray today, I pray you will listen to God tugging at you and ask, as God reminds you the part that you have to play in answering the prayers of our community. God, we know that there are people in our community who have hurt themselves because they have no other way to deal with their pain. And although for most of us it's like, why are you doing that? We're here for you. God, help us to step back and to listen and to be present with people who are in emotional pain. Help us to find words of comfort or to shut up when we need to. And to be present. God, we also know that there are people who have physical, tangible needs. COVID has taken so much from them. The tornadoes have taken from them. Illness has taken from them. And if there is a way that we as a community can help people, God, we ask for your prompting. We ask that our ears be opened to the needs and that our eyes will see the needs and our hearts will meet the needs. And we think of those who are still grieving the loss of loved ones. And we think of John and Tamara, especially this week. May they be surrounded with families and friends that can lift them and help them celebrate the memories that they have, but also help them through those times that are a little more difficult. And whatever the needs are, help us to meet them. In your name I pray. Let us share the Lord's Prayer together. Our Creator, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever. Amen. As we celebrate communion this day, remember that Jesus was with his friends. And it was in the middle of a meal that he took this action of just lifting up a piece of bread. No drum roll, no microphone. He just took bread. And I imagined to myself sometimes, I wonder what it is like on that day when he took bread. Did he go, "Oi, you lot, shh, I got something to say"? Or was it just the sense of what he did that hushed that room? whatever it was, he took a piece of bread from the table, gave God thanks for it, and broke it. And then he shared it, and he said, take, eat, all of you. This is a sign of the new covenant. And then he took the cup. He gave God thanks and praise, blessed it and shared it, and said, take, drink, all of you. This is a sign of the new covenant. And these, both the bread and the juice, are the sign of this covenant that really he'd been talking about his whole life. A covenant of unconditional love. So as we take of this meal today, I pray we will remember. We will remember to love unconditionally. As we bring our service to a close this morning, we invite you to rise and sing with us. We Three Kings.
Mountain
as we leave this physical space and we leave this community time together, I really pray that we will, in the weeks coming, find a way to tap into our joy and to share that joy with each other, despite a little glitch called Omicron. So, will you pray with me? God, as we leave this place, may we continue to give of our gift to this world. May we treasure the gifts that we have, but also the gifts that we are given. May we make a difference every day that we have breath. In your name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
May the peace of God go with you.
And also with you.
Amen.
Amen.